Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we're reviewing The Gate from Vestron Video. Pray it's not too late.
Directed by Tibor Takacs, starring Stephen Dorff and Louis Tripp, The Gate is about two kids who unleash a horde of demons onto the world, and an ensuing battle of good versus evil takes place. What do we like about this movie, guys? What's refreshing about this movie is it's PG-13, but it's like a horror movie for kids. As young horror fans, you know, we can't get all the rated R movies. So you get The Gate, and it's just like, this is awesome.
I think that holds true to today.
After revisiting this film, the biggest shocker is the visual effects, especially because of the minions. They're not overly scary, but they're very entertaining.
They used forced perspective in order to capture these little creatures. These little creatures were actually like full-grown people, and they just made giant sets. They raised the camera up and they just shot them from an angle. While we were watching it, I was just taken back by how well everything was composited.
I miss it in movies these days. Just the creativity to get things to work. It's just like, oh yeah, green screen, you know, we'll put in some CG. That's the solution now. But back then, they got some guys in a rubber suit biting on a large ass shoe.
But the biggest effect, which was the creepiest, was when Glenn is just like being choked by his dad, and you just see his face squishing in. Like the face looked real, the effect looked real, and it was creepy.
It's just such an adventure, honestly.
It's hard to not look at it with nostalgia in our eyes, but I think people could watch this brand new as a kid and enjoy it.
But it is worth mentioning that they throw around a lot of terms that we don't use these days.
Just shut up. Fag.
Hey. Main guy Glenn, our little boy. I thought he was the biggest asshole ever, and I loved him for it, because he was constantly yelling at people and putting them in their place.
Buzz off, clown face.
Ooh. Don't you have to go upstairs and change your Pampers or something?
Don't you have to go and join the circus?
I loved how 80s this movie is. I love that they all were dancing at the house party, smoking their cigarettes, drinking their beer, and the look, the feel, it felt very current at the time. Now we look back and it's just like, yeah, that's the 80s. That's definitely the 80s.
Even Terry's scene where he's just rocking out in his room, listening to the death metal and everything. That whole scene, I was sitting there, I was like, do people even still do this? Do they jump on their bed, listening to vinyls, rocking out? I mean, I guess they would listen to MP3s, but
they're probably streaming on Spotify, John.
You're really dating yourself.
really dating myself.
Gotta create my folders on my CDs.
I like the cinematography. So aside from the forced perspective minion shots, they also had a lot of sweeping cameras and tracking shots, and everything looked really, really nice. And because we did watch the Vestron release, it actually looks really, really sharp. The colors are awesome. And we did watch some of the special features on the film to see what the original looked like. And damn, Lionsgate did a fucking great job.
Another nice touch to this movie was the aesthetics with the lighting and the smoke. The fog that was everywhere, the way that things were lit, it did give it a real eerie atmosphere. You felt as though shit was gonna hit the fan anytime that the fog's coming through the gate, or you get that purple light in the background. It was a good mood setter.
The mood was set well, the tension was done well, and it was all tied into really good pacing and setup. You had enough time to explore the characters, you understood who they were, what was happening, and it just led to a very cohesive movie and story. What didn't we like about this movie? So, Glenn, he was kind of like a annoying dweeb to me. He was kind of grating. You know in Home Alone, where Kevin gets left alone? He was kind of annoying. You're like, yeah, I'd leave that kid alone. Glenn was almost pushing that, you know, I think he was almost there. It's just oh, I can't play with my rockets. Oh, I can't dig these holes.
Yeah, he did some dickhead things. And I said that I liked him, but I don't like him. I'm reneging a bit. I liked when he cussed people off because he was basically
Catch me outside, how about that?
I just felt that Glenn sulked way too much. As a protagonist, it felt very weak. I liked Terry more as a protagonist because when he wanted to get something done, he got it done. Being that we're used to other horror films, I kind of expected a character like Eric who accidentally caused all of this by dumping the dog in the hole. I just feel as though something bad should have happened to him. Like one of the minions should have done something to him when he was like sneaking in with the beers.
I felt that people didn't understand the like gravity of situations in this movie. And I'm speaking literally here. For example, they levitate a young boy and nobody cares. Everyone's just like, just an illusion.
People are more concerned that he was crying.
Not, why is he flying? The same thing kind of happened with like other situations in the movie where people would see goblins or whatever the fuck they are, little demons, and then they'd be like, I don't believe you. It's like, no, but there's fucking little minions right there.
Yeah, so
like the sister, right?
yeah. So what's weird is like remember the thing that was going up in the sky?
Yeah.
It was fucking dark everywhere.
Yeah.
Things
The
were
tornado?
smashing. Yeah, and nobody came. Nobody was like, what the fuck?
That's some shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel this movie set the bar with how much people actually care when the dad was just like, well, you dug a hole in the backyard, just like one day grounded.
They put a little bit dirt and they just, hit it a little and then there was a huge tunnel or a hole.
They should have covered, like Dad should have covered the hole with the wood. It wasn't until halfway through the movie the children decided to protect themselves.
Yeah. I mean, granted, it didn't work that well.
No.
There didn't seem to be anything coming out of the hole.
Are we just too soft these days? Like, I see baby gates on everybody's fucking hallways. There's plastic things that cover up your outlets. There's all types of, like, shit for safety. Yet there's a hole to hell in your backyard. And you're like, just don't leave the property.
If anything, they should have him leave the property because that hole is deemed unsafe.
It's time for our final thoughts and ratings.
30 years later, and the gate still holds up. I remember watching it as like a 7-year-old being terrified. Today, I'm not terrified, but this movie is still very entertaining. I loved the minions. I love the way that this film was shot, and I feel as though anyone can watch this and still enjoy it. It's a good film. A lot is going on in it. The pacing is great. The characters, you love them, you hate them. But all in all, I just really enjoy this movie. And I think no matter if you're a kid or an adult, you need to watch this film. So with that being said, I'm gonna give this film 5 flippy kids out of 5.
I used to watch The Gate a ton as a kid, and watching it so many years later, it was still enjoyable, and surprisingly, there were still scares that caught me off guard. The cinematography, the way that everything was shot, and the way that they used practical effects and forced perspective to showcase these minions was incredible and hilarious. Because I thought these minions looked like idiots, but idiots located in the right place in the frame. In general, I don't have many complaints about this movie. I just don't think it's gonna be the best for a brand new audience, but if you've ever seen it or heard the name in the past, then you definitely should check it out. So I'm gonna give this 4 shitty ass treehouses out of 5.
For those who want to watch an old 80s movie who has a nostalgia hole in their heart, I think this could fill it. I don't know if I could recommend it to someone if I was to say, hey, you want to watch a good 80s flick? I don't think it's a must-see. But it is enjoyable. If you like The Goonies even, I think this is kind of along the same lines. I think it's a good kids horror movie that is a little more closer to the edge than like a cheap kids horror movie. Overall, it's pretty well done. It's a good story. There's good characters. It's fun to watch, especially since we've seen it before, so it brings back all those memories. So I'm gonna give it 3.5 Technicolor blankets out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on The Gate if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, Vestron, Lionsgate just released a brand new Collector's Series version. Links in the description. So check that out, and if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay updated with everything Bloodbath and beyond.